Hey, what's up guys? My name is Moda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. So today's video is going to be a very hot topic lately, and it's one of my favorite topics, right? For those of you guys who have been watching me for a while, the first big video I really did was regarding this topic specifically, and it's about mining at a loss, okay? So we're going to talk about both sides, right? Why it's maybe not the best idea, why it can be a good idea, and give you real world numbers, right? Give you actual numbers as to why maybe you should, why maybe it's not the best idea, but for you to make up your own decision, right? It's one thing to talk about theoreticals, another thing to talk about actuality, right? So I want to give it a good debate. I'm going to talk about it back and forth. So if that sounds good, guys, stay tuned. So, very hot topic lately. Want to give a huge shout out to Chum Change XD because he did a live stream recently about it, talking about it pretty bluntly, which is good. Again, none of this is financial advice, and I'm not trying to persuade you to do either way, right? There's going to be reasons for both sides, but what I like about that is that he gave a fair shot at that side, meaning being kind of sort of against mining at a loss. My biggest beef with a lot of the, not necessarily beef, let me rephrase that. My issue with a lot of the other opinions is that they never gave the other side a chance, right? For the past 3, 4 months, probably even longer, it's been a fairly one sided argument, right? Just mine at a loss, mine at a loss. It's okay. It's going to be worth it in the end. Mine at a loss, mine at a loss. My perspective has been slightly different, right? Again, I'm newer to mining. I've been mining about 2 years now, especially in comparison to a lot of the others. I tend to look, I'm more into the whole crypto market, right? Not just mining. I like DeFi, NFTs, the thing as a whole. So I'm kind of have a slightly different perspective, right? So it's pretty refreshing to finally see somebody kind of like go out of that mining circle and have a different opinion, okay? So I know it's kind of like beating a dead horse, but I'm going to do it again, okay? But again, I am going to give you both sides. This is, again, not to persuade you either way, but it's just for you so you can make an informed decision, right, on what's best for you, right? Because everybody has different priorities, different goals, different reasons for mining, right? So I'm going to go over both sides and let's get to it, right? So the number one argument I tend to get a lot is that they want to mine it to support that project, right? And that does make sense, right? Because the every network does need hash rate in order to validate blocks, mint new blocks, verify transactions, etc., etc. And that makes sense, right? But I'm going to give these specific examples with Flux, okay? Again, nothing against Flux. I love Flux, right? For those of you, I now do have a little catalog of videos, and I'm sure you guys can now see that I'm not anti-mining, I'm not anti-Flux, okay? Those first few videos I did, that's what I was called. Saying, I was like, why are you doing a mining channel if you're anti-mining, and why are you trolling, da da da. Okay, so now hopefully you can kind of see my viewpoint a little bit better, right? Now I do have a little catalog. For those of you guys who have been following me for a little bit, you're kind of starting to get the hint, right? So anyways, I'm going to give this specific example with Flux because a lot of it really pertains to Flux. Okay, it's not only Flux though. This is really a broad example, but it's highlighted with Flux. It's kind of almost exaggerated even with Flux. Okay, so let's go look at a hash rate chart. Okay, my biggest thing was saying that it's not going to necessarily, not that it doesn't matter, but it kind of almost doesn't. Okay, Flux is a layer one, yes, but it's not one where like how it was with ETH in the past, where we needed like quick transactions. We needed more. This is not that kind of network. Okay. Just the same as it was chugging along just fine when it was down to 1 or 2 mega souls, it's going to be fine if the hash rate drops, guys. There's no need for it to have been at 8 mega souls or even recently, right now it hit, I think, almost 10 at one point. It does not need that much hash rate. Okay. It's not that kind of network. Plus, there's plenty of big farms who have that, 5 cent kilowatt hour who will keep the network chugging. It's going to be fine, especially for those of you guys with over an 8 cent kilowatt hour. Because I think when I broke it down, I think you pretty much had to be at about 5-6 cents kilowatt hour in order to be even break even, right? So any of you guys over 10, which is the majority of like at-home miners, you're wasting your money. You're not supporting the project by doing that. Okay, if anything, the only thing you are supporting is your electric company. They're the only ones benefiting from it. You could make the argument if that excess money was going towards Flux, it was going towards, the devs supporting that project, then I get it. It would make sense. Support it. That's not what's happening though. Okay, for those of you guys with a more higher electric rate, you're literally just supporting your electric company. And if anything, because of the fact that you can get twice as much flux by buying it versus mining it, you're doing the network a disservice. Specifically with flux, because you are incentivized to hold more flux. Okay, you can have more nodes. You can upgrade to a higher tier node. You can stake it in a Titan node. You're literally incentivized to hold more flux. Therefore, you would actually help the network out by doing that. Okay, it's gonna be fine. Again, guys, even if this goes to half, it's currently down to 5 megasouls. Even if it goes down to 2.5, it's gonna be fine. Okay, those guys at the cheaper electric rate, they're gonna hold it down until the price action goes up, right? Maybe we get more transactional volumes at the end of the year when proof of useful work comes out and we do need more transactions processed. Then the incentives are gonna go up and it's gonna make more sense to jump back in because you're gonna be incentivized to do so. Right now, the problem is there's just I think rapid mining is one of the few who's been preaching it. There's just too much hash on the networks. Okay? That does not need all this hash rate. It is not that kind of a layer 1. Okay? So just keep that in mind as far as if that is your argument regarding it. Okay? Another argument we hear often is that it is only a loss if you sell. And technically, that is 100% accurate. Okay? You're not at a loss. Just same thing as if you buy any coins, you're not at a loss until you sell. If you hold that thing, it is going to accrue value. My argument, though, with that is that by not mining it, by buying it directly, I can accrue so much more. Again, if it was only a 5% difference, 10% difference, not that big of a deal. But when you're literally getting 2 to 3 to 4 times as much by just buying it versus mining it, I don't see the sense in that, right? But that is purely up to you. But again, if that is your mindset, then it makes more sense to have more flux so that you are holding it, so you can take advantage of that investment. Okay? So just keep that in mind. Yes, that is true, right? It's only a loss if you sell. But my biggest thing is that if I'm going to accrue more by buying it, I'm going to do that. Okay? Because my personal mining strategy has been from the get-go, right? Ever since I turned off with the merge, I had that plan already. That same amount of money I was using in electrical, right? Those $600-700, whatever it is, I'm still using that money. Okay? I'm still acting as if though I was still mining. But instead of burning that in electrical, I'm using that to now buy the coin instead because I'm accruing so much more. So yes, my GPU miners have been off, but I'm still accruing. I'm still going. We're in a bear market. This is the goal, to keep accruing. Okay? But I don't have it at a fixed rate. I'm not going to buy okay, at the first of the month, no matter what the price is, I'm going to buy. No. If the price is up that week, I'm not going to buy it that week. Okay, but I am still accruing that money. That money is going into a separate account. It's going there and it's just waiting for it. Waiting for that dip. Now, if I didn't buy for 3 months, then we have a huge dip, I'm going in hard. Okay, just like during this FTX flush when it went down to 40-something cents, those few months I didn't buy, I went in hard. Okay, that's exactly why I did that video at that time, specifically with Flux. Because I was able to accrue so much more by buying it at that price than mining it. Okay, and even that calculation I did, I mentioned it that it was there, but I didn't even take into account the halving. Okay, so it's just I accrued so much more by doing that versus buying it. Or versus mining it, I should say. Right? So keep that in mind. Okay? Another argument I heard recently which doesn't make sense. It's people were saying like, oh, you know, if you're looking at profits daily, it doesn't make sense because by the time you add up all your transaction fees, if you're doing that daily, you're going to have so many transaction fees. Who the hell is going to be doing it daily? That makes zero sense. Could understand once a month because that's when you're paying your electric, but like to make that argument, that's like in bad faith, right? I'm not going to sit here and mine, okay, I mined 30 cents, I'm going to sell 28 cents worth every day. No, guys, we're not going to be doing that. Okay, we're going to sell when it makes sense to sell. When the price is up, we're going to go. When it dips, we go low. If that's your strategy. My whole reason for looking at the profits, whether it's profitable or not, is again just to justify whether or not I'm going to be buying or mining at that time. Doesn't mean I'm looking at it every day or I'm doing it every day. Okay, but I am accruing like monthly. Every month, that money again I would have paid for the electric. I have it there. Whether I buy it or not at that time is up to your strategy. I don't have a fixed time. Okay, I do have a fixed time where I allot that money, right? The first of the month, or I think it's the 7th of the month is when my electric bill was due. At that point, that money that I was using towards it goes into that separate account. Okay, and then I decide whether or not I'm going to buy at that point. Okay, like right now, these past few weeks, been a horrible time to buy, right? Because we've had a huge pump. It was up over $1 recently. Now it's down to 74 cents. If I was in the market to buy, okay, now would probably be the time to buy because we had this dip. Okay, but me, that's not what I'm looking at right now because I bought way back when it was at 40 cents. Okay, I accrued a whole lot back then. I'm accruing other things that have dropped more. I'm waiting for a bigger drop because that's my strategy. Again, you have to come up with your own strategy, see what makes sense to you, and it's all up to you, right? And what your plans are, what your accrual plans are, how much you want to stack, what you want to do, right? So take these things into consideration. All right. So another one I hear of a lot is that, well, it's all a write-off, right? I'm going to write off my equipment, write off my electrical, write off my internet, write off the space. And yes, 100% do that. That is the smartest way to do it. Okay, all my equipment I have, all my electrical, all my internet, all these ASICs I'm buying, all those are write-offs. But again, it doesn't make sense. I'm going to give the example specific with the GPU mining. Okay, mine what's most profitable and then buy the coin you want. That way you're still benefiting from all those tax write-offs still, and you're still accruing the coin you want at the max. Okay, again, people still try to argue this point like, oh, nope, staying with Flux. I don't care. Even though with these other coins, right, there's coins that are profitable, guys. GPU mining has been profitable for a few months now, if you've been following it. Between, Casp was the one that started it, Nexa, Dynex, these have all been profitable for quite a while. So even if you don't care about these coins, but you're still fixated on GPU mining, mine what's most profitable, sell it, buy your Flux. Buy whatever coin you're into. That way, again, you're still taking advantage of the electrical, you're still taking advantage of writing off your hardware, you're still taking advantage of all those things, and still accruing more Flux. Okay, so again, these are all things that, yes, we're all taking advantage of. Okay, so again, but that's still not a valid argument to mine something at a loss when other things are profitable. Okay, at the times when I made those videos, like in October, November, prior to Nexa, prior to Dynex, Caspa was just barely becoming profitable. Then you had more of an argument. Okay, but since then we've had Radiant, we've had Nexa, Dynex, we've had all these that continue to be profitable. Something has been profitable for the past few months. Okay, so again, you can still take advantage of all these things and still accrue more Flux if that's your end game. Even if you don't believe in Dynex, you don't believe in Nexa, mine what's most profitable, buy what you want. Okay, accrue the most you can for the least amount of money. That is my whole goal. Okay, you may have a different viewpoint, and that's what it is, right? All right, so next topic. The other one I get a lot of is that I'm just mining and holding because I'm spec mining. I'm speculating on the fact that, yes, Flux's USD value is only this amount, but in 2 years it's going to be worth $5, right? So I'm purely spec mining. Number one, you're not really spec mining because it's already on an exchange. Okay, for you to be spec mining, it'd be something that's purely speculative, that there is no market for, that you cannot buy, right? We just had this Aleo test now. We've had Ironfish. That's spec mining. Okay, that's a whole different thing. You doing it this way, I get what you're saying, and it is a very valid argument. Okay, because at this point, yes, the fiat value is only 70 something cents, and you're predicting that it's gonna be worth $5, and you're looking at it like that. And totally valid, it makes sense. But again, from my perspective, I'm gonna accrue more of that. Therefore, I'm gonna have more value because I have more coins for the same amount that I'm spending. Okay? So yes, you're true, but if you buy it versus mining it, you're gonna get X amount more. In Flux's case, currently right now, it's twice as much. In the past, it's been as much as, like, the last time I did a Flux video, it was 3 times as much. Okay, again, 5%, 10%, not that big of a deal, but 300%, 200%, pretty significant, especially if you have a decent sized farm. Okay, it can be huge, right? It can be a difference if you have, let's say, X amount of gigahash, where it could be the point where, okay, I'm mining it, I'm accruing 1,000 flux a month, but by mining it, you would accrue 2,000 throughout the span of the year. That's almost a whole nother, like, what, Stratus node or Nimbus node. Okay, factor that in. That's a lot of money you're leaving on the table by doing that. Daily, okay, half a flux, whatever, but think long term, especially if that's your argument that you're gonna hold long term. Think about how much more you would accrue long term. Okay, so factor that in also. All right, so now we're gonna go with reasons why it makes sense to mine at a loss, or to mine right now. Not even necessarily at a loss. Let's rephrase that. Why it makes sense to mine. Before I even make that argument, though, I do want to throw one other thing out that gets really lost in this argument. Is that you can do both. Don't put yourself in that box that I'm a miner, I'm only gonna mine. That's it. Guess what? You can also DCA, guys. You don't have to just do one thing. You can mine and you can buy. Don't put yourself in that little box where, nope, I'm a miner, that's it, that's the only way. When prices go low, you can continue to mine, but you should also be accruing more. Okay, that is the whole goal with this bear market for most people, is to accrue, get as much as you can. Even if you're on the mindset where, yes, I'm definitely gonna mine, go ahead, but when we have these price dips, go for it. Okay, like I've been mining Cadena for forever now, but I mine it and I accrue it. I also DCA into it when the prices are low. So like during these dips recently where they were like 80 something cents, yes, I'm mining it, paying my electrical there, and then on top of that, I'm also DCAing into it. Okay, during these dips, during these price hikes, not so much, I'm just mining. Okay, but don't put yourself in that little box where I'm a miner and that's all I'm gonna do. Sometimes it makes more sense to buy it, guys. Okay, so keep that in mind. Don't put yourself in that little box. That's another big thing I've like hated so much about everything. It's like, nope, you're a miner, mine only, mine at a loss. That's it. That is the way. Keep your mind open. Okay? All right. So some of the reasons where it makes sense to do it, right? One is Chump Change gave that perfect example. Heating. Okay? For me, it's kind of irrelevant. I'm in Florida, not really my thing, but like his example was the perfect example. He was saying his propane cost for like 3 months was $900, so $300 a month. It's probably about the cost to keep that miner running. Okay, in my opinion, to me, that's not at a loss because that's money you would have wasted anyway. Okay, to me, that's not at a loss. Okay, perfectly legit reason, especially like these little box miners, these little KD lights, awesome little space heaters. Okay, like for me, that does benefit me because for me, it doesn't make sense to, like when my son was smaller, it would make more sense. We'd buy little space heaters just for his room. For us, it was comfortable to be cold, but for like him when he was a toddler, not so much. So we would buy a space heater, a 1200 watt space heater just for his room. Right? If I had a miner at that time, that would have been perfect. Instead of throwing those 1200 watts away, to have a 1200 watts worth of GPUs or a KD light or whatever, and it would work perfectly. Okay? Perfectly good way to reuse it. Or now, especially with these, people who have a huge excess, people are able to like heat their pool up, there's different things you can do with that now. And that makes perfect sense, right? So another good example of where it makes sense is if you have excess solar energy, right? Let's say you make X amount and it's essentially free, it's extra, perfect. Or if you have solar energy in general, like again with Chump Change, he has those solar panels outside. Perfect, right? Free energy or low cost energy makes perfect sense, okay? Another one is if you're just doing it as a hobby. That is perfectly fine too, guys. Again, I'm not trying to persuade you either way. Okay? I just want to give a fair, valid argument to both sides. And then it is up to you and only you to decide what you want to do or what makes more sense. Okay? Again, so the hobby aspect. Some people love tinkering with things, and that makes perfect sense also. Okay? You're able to tinker with something, you're able to earn something from it, you're able to support a network that you're into. Okay? Especially if you're like learning about it. Okay? That's the number one best way to get into mining in general is with GPUs. Most of us already have a GPU. If you're a gamer, if you have a computer, if you have a PC, most likely you have a GPU. You can start mining something with it, learning about it, learning how it works, how you jump into a pool, how you change different algorithms. That's what got me into mining, right? It's just I found it fascinating. I still find it fascinating. I love proof of work. Okay? So that totally makes sense. Okay, a lot of people are saying, oh, these little GPUs is the way to go if you're just starting to learn. Okay, because again, it's something that it has resale value. You can do stuff with it. You can switch algos. You learn a ton with it. And it's fun, man. It's fun tinkering with things. It's fun building things. Like that to me is one of the funniest things with GPU mining is like actually building a rig, putting it together, seeing it work, jumping on a network, looking at those transactions. It's fascinating, right? So another good use is if you're doing actual real spec mining, okay? So if you're doing, again, if you're participating in these test nets, you're jumping on a new project that is not listed on any exchanges, then it's totally worth it, right? Again, I mentioned like with Ironfish, this one I think was just nodes and transactions and such, but the previous one was GPU mining. This Aleo testnet, and I'm sure there's going to be more and more that are coming out, right? At that point, there is no market. There is no real way to buy the coin unless it's peer-to-peer. So at that point, it is spec mining, okay? And that makes sense, right? It's worth the risk, which is a huge risk though, because also keep in mind, can become a dead project, can never come out, etc., etc. All this in general is all speculative, but specifically with these, we don't know what the future is, right? May not be worth anything. Hopefully it is worth something. We don't know, but that is a totally good use of power, right? So again, guys, not trying to persuade you either way. Just want to give a fair argument to both sides because it's mainly been towards the mining at a loss side, but not so much on the other side, right? So now let's give some examples. Let's look at it. Right, so let's give the example with Flux. Okay, so this is on what to mine. This is at a 10-cent kilowatt hour. These hash rates aren't exact. Okay, this is just ballparking. We're just looking at it, right? So if we're looking at it here, right, so this is based off of 10 3060 Ti's, which is the average little rig, again at a 10-cent kilowatt hour. Okay, so monthly, we would earn about 74 flux. Again, mining nonstop, 24 hours a day for a month with those 10 3060 Ti's. It would cost us about $108 to do that. Okay, so let's get our little calculator out and let's divide that. So $108, we're going to divide it by the 74.144. So essentially, by mining for a month at the current cost, the current rate, we're paying $1.45 per flux. Okay? The current price of flux is 74 cents. So we're paying almost exactly double for that same flux. Okay? And again, if it's 5%, 10% difference, not the biggest deal in the world. Okay? But when you're going to get twice as much flux by just buying it versus mining it, I don't get the sense in it. Okay? And this is at the current time. Back when I made that previous video, when it was at like 40 something cents, doing that same calculation, it was 3x as much. Okay, and that wasn't even factoring in with the upcoming halving. Okay, so these are things you gotta take into account, guys. Again, 5% difference, 10% difference, break even, not the hugest deal. But again, if you're on a bigger scale and you're spending, you know, say $1,000 in electric a month, and one method is gonna get you twice as much, think about that long term. Okay, think about if there's 1,000 flux difference per month over a 2-year span when we're in the bull market. Think of how many flux you're leaving on the table because of that. It's a lot of money. Okay, so just something to keep into perspective. Okay, again, one way or the other, it's totally up to you. Everybody's situation is different. You may have free electric, you may be in an apartment and it's all included. You have solar, whatever your reasonings are. Just, you got to look at these things from a whole perspective. Okay, just want to give you a different viewpoint other than just mine at a loss, no matter what. Right? So that's been my strategy. My other strategy, again, my main thing with this bull or bear market right now, the only like low cap things I'm doing are things that I would be mining. Right? I'm not really getting into these like crazy below 300 market cap coins unless they're mining coins, only because I see the value in the community that mining brings, right? So there are certain coins that I'm buying that are very low cap, right? So like I bought a little bit of Nexa, I bought Casper early on in October, I did buy some RXD because I'm buying these dips, okay? So like when I see the prices are really low, that's when I tend to jump in because at that point, sometimes it makes more sense. For example, when I bought Caspa back in October, and at the time when I did the calculation with one rig, if I were to put one 12 card 3060 Ti rig, when I did that calculation, it was going to take me 7 months and like almost like $900 in electrical to accrue the same amount that I could just buy with, you know, $300 at that time because of how cheap it was because of that dip at that moment. Right? So take into account not only the time, right? Because then what if it did pop off, which it did, and the hash rate skyrockets, which it did, there's no way I would have accrued that amount in 7 months. It would have been extended longer and longer and longer instead of just buying that dip. Okay? So like one example I can give right now that's currently dipping is with like Radiant. Right? If we look at these 90-day, these 30-day charts, it's been quite a significant drop. Okay, so we can see it was 0.0025 at one point, and right now it's 0.00000, right? Another 0.43. Okay, back when I had bought it initially, I bought a batch in October. Okay, I bought it down over here, like in this 0.0003 range. Okay, because I did the same type of calculation. Okay, at that point, it was going to take me way longer and way more in electrical than it was to just buy it at that point at that dip. Okay, so like with RXD, for example, we can do a quick little calculation. It is 0.000431, and we could times it by how many we would buy. So the bag I had bought at that time when it was 0.0003 was 500,000. Okay, we could put it at that price down. It's only going to cost you $215 to get 500,000 RXD. Okay, so just keep that in mind, right? So we have that number, $215, right? How long would it take us to mine it? If we had 10 GPUs, right, 10 cent kilowatt hour, we would earn 4,375 RXD a day. Okay, let's break it down. So if we get that 500,000, which is what we're going to buy, divided by the 43.75, which is what we would accrue per day on a 10 card rig, it would take us 114 days to mine that. And again, that's if the difficulty doesn't change, nothing changes, it stays as is, right? Realistically, if we do get any price appreciation, that's going to change drastically, right? But again, for me, I'm waiting for it to go a little bit lower. I might buy another little bag, and same thing with Caspa. Okay, I'm just giving these examples because that's just what I'm doing. Not recommending, as a matter of fact, that I'm not even really too bullish on Radiant, but at that price, I know it's going to come up because of the community as long as they don't rug, right? With any of these, again, not financial advice. These are small cap. I don't have the biggest faith in them, but I think they will be around, and I think they will just pump just with the market, just because of the mining community, okay? Out of these new batches, out of the Dynex, the Nexa, Lithium, Radiant, and Caspa, the only one I am bullish on long term, even if it wasn't a mining coin, is Caspa. Okay, and that's the one that I am waiting for a little bit more of a dip. Should have caught it on the last dip, but now I have a price target because that is one I am bullish on regardless, right? That's one I really do believe in, and I will try to DCA more as it comes up because right now it's still, I would be at a loss, which again, I'm waiting for a bigger dip, even more than what it is now. If I miss the boat, I miss the boat. I'm okay with that because I did get a little bag back in October. But those are just my price targets and what I'm looking at, right? Because again, for me, mining at a loss, not really a thing. But I'm also not DCAing on these like highs, right? I'm waiting for these dips, and that's when I am buying. Okay? So just something to keep in mind. Again, not shilling them, not trying to promote them. I'm just letting you know my kind of mindset with what I'm doing with miners and how I'm still looking at GPU mining, right? Just because I'm saying all these things doesn't mean that GPU mining is dead or that, okay, what do I do now with my stuff? Should I sell it all? I'm not. I've been debating it, right? But realistically, I'm mostly going to keep them unless something hits the fan. Then I will be selling. But if anything, I'm buying, right? Right now is the time to buy. There's a lot of cheap stuff. The GPUs haven't really dropped to the prices I've been liking, but other things have, right? Like I spent the minimal amount of money when I was GPU mining. I didn't buy these cool little fans and these cool little towers and all that. I did it the cheapest way possible, right? To me, it didn't make sense to blow $150 on a frame when that I could put that towards another GPU, right? Or to spend, $50 in fans when I could buy a box fan for $10. That's way more powerful than all these RGB fans and all this nonsense. Look ghetto as hell, right? But that was the plan, was to buy when things were cheap. Ideally, right? I was expecting to have, not expecting, but I was wishing to have pretty much like octo miners be available for like $300. I don't think that's going to happen, right? So what I am probably looking at right now are like these bootleg AAA wave cases or frames that were like $100, $150 in the bull market are now down to like $20, $25, right? So I'll probably be buying a couple of those just so I can move them around easier. Right now, they're still I have them in a rack still, but those are all going to get moved out again because the ASICs are going to go in there. And I got to reconfigure everything. But I am still buying stuff, right? Like risers, gpurisers.com risers on eBay when they go on sale for like $1 for like a pack of 15 of them. For $15, $1 a piece. I've been picking those up. PDUs, I've been lowballing people. When people accept the $50, $60 range, I've been buying those. Because again, those are all things that were super expensive in the bull market. So I'm still accruing hardware. Again, the GPUs still expensive in my opinion. But this may actually be the lowest they go, right? Because of freaking how expensive the new ones are, right? So again, I'm not done with GPU mining. I'm not like saying anything bad about it. I'm still here, still mining, still think it's eventually going to be profitable. Maybe a little while away, but I think we're going to get there eventually. But just wanted to give you that perspective, guys. Okay, and again, huge shout out to Chump Change and everybody on Misfit Mining. I know there was a pretty heated debate, but it was good to hear, right? A fair argument for either side, right? That's been a big thing. I remember those first videos I did were harsh in the comments, being called like anti-miner and all this nonsense, but hopefully now I have a better catalog of videos, have a lot more followers than I did back then, and you can really see where my mind is at, right? Why I'm saying the things I'm saying. It's not because I'm anti-mining, not because anti-flux. If anything, hopefully you guys get the perspective that I love both things. Okay, I'm doing this channel out of love for it. I'm still fascinated by crypto. I love crypto. I love proof of work. I love mining. Still into it. Always going to be into it. Right? But at the same time, if it deserves criticism, I'm going to criticize it. Okay? Again, I have no affiliation with anybody. I have no nothing other than, again, just like I said in that goals video, my goal is just to accumulate as many coins for the least amount of money as possible. Okay? And I want to give you guys that other viewpoint in case that is also your viewpoint. Okay? Because at the end of the day, we all want to make it. We all want to accrue as much as we can so we're, eating good in the bull market. Right? So I know it was a long one, kind of a ranty one, but wanted to give you those viewpoints, guys. So hopefully you got some value from the video, guys. Again, we are a small channel. It does help if you comment, like, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, guys, and I am out.